Greetings, Patrick here. 8 questions with on a Friday, a cold Friday at that. And glad that you are here with us tonight. We'll be talking with actress and journalist Chaise Cortes De Vargas. She'll be here in about 15 minutes. And it is going to be a very fun show. If you are an actor or a director, highly recommend you sticking around for this one or even watching the replay because we will be talking about you and talking about deals and stuff like that. I mean, that's one good thing about being a journalist. If you're an actor, is that you know what's coming down the pipe probably before a lot of other people do. Uh, yeah, it's been a pretty quiet day here. Pretty quiet day, and but it's a cool day. Wasn't too bad. The snow is just about all gone again from our lawn. Let's see. Anthony says he went to the library and he got some. Oh, he got some stuff. He went and bought some stuff today. Oh, I can't wait to see what you got. I know it's already Friday. Uh, People ask me about Friday and Saturdays if I'm looking forward to Tuesdays, and I always say I'm looking forward to Tuesdays once I step out the door on the library on Tuesday. Hey, hi Stephen, how are you? How are you? That's right. We will be having a special guest on tonight. We'll be having actress and screenwriter and film director Chaise Cortes De Vargas will be here in about 15 minutes or so. No, she does not know that you are a karaoke singer, but our guest yesterday did. So there's that. Um, I was poking around, seeing what's going on in the world of news, entertainment news, and some good news, but some perplexing news came out. Good news is that it looks like Scrubs is on its way back. They're going to revamp Scrubs. Um, wow, I sort of have mixed emotions, is because we're not going to get the whole team back together. A lot of the original cast members have moved on to other things. Some have passed. Uh, the gentleman played Ted, the lawyer. He passed. Dr. Kelso, I don't think I have not heard or seen anything from him at all. I'm sure he's in his upper 90s, mid 90s, upper 90s. So I don't see that happening. Um, Judy Reyes, who played Turk's wife, Carla. She has a new regular role on another ABC show. Hey, Cheryl, how are you? That is a girl, Stephen. Chase Cortez is a lady. I'm going to go ahead and drop that comment too. I don't want my guest being yeah. Not upset. Just going to drop that one because that one doesn't need to be seen. Um, and Judy Reyes was gone with the new show. She's playing the captain of a high potential. Um, uh, uh, let's see who else. Of course, Donald Faison and Zach Braff have kept the series in the public's eye through through their podcast, and then through the podcast through a series of TV commercials. So, um, let's see, John C. McGinley, he is still working. He is still very active. In fact, he did a couple of Hallmark movies that I saw. Seeing him coming back as Dr. Cox. Um, of course, we have the young lady who played Dr. Cox's wife. God, I don't even know half the names of the people anymore. Of course, Sarah will be back more. You got to have Sarah back. Actually, I would sit there and say you have to have, man, if you're going to have to redo Scrubs and have the vital people back, you got to have Denise from seasons 8 and 9 come back. She has to come back. Denise was a really interesting character. And of course, I'm wondering how they're going to do this with so few cast members from the original, because the show's it's been what, 20 years. Oh, thank you so much, Stephen. I appreciate that. Um, so it's one of the best shows I've ever seen. I have the whole series here. I absolutely love the show. I'm glad Bill Lawrence is finally bringing it back. Um, it's going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those shows they're going to bring back for the 10-episode run to see how it takes off, see how it feels. Because a lot of times, it's sort of weird. It's like a lot of times you hear people, get a show coming back. Like, hey, Murphy Brown's coming back, or Scrubs is coming back, or any of these other shows that are coming back, and it's great for the nostalgia. But the real question is, in some cases, it's worked out pretty well. But most of these shows are really struggling as far as coming back. Even if they have only a 10 to 12 episode season, they are still coming. I mean, the initial hoopla, the press, and everything else. But after that, it's like a lot of people are looking at the show like, well, that's my parents' show, or that's my grandparents' favorite show, and they don't really know too much about it. Um, but I'm hoping, or worse, well, what's going to happen? I know someone right now who's really not happy with this news, and that would be the cast and crew of St. Dennis, because they will get probably just chopped up, for sure. Uh, oh, he's still working. Oh, okay. Steven says it's going to snow in Maryland. It's probably already snowing up in Canada. No snow here. So it's going to be very interesting. Because Scrubs they won't probably be back up and running till probably next fall. And again, it's like time goes by. So it's going to be weird coming back and watching the show and seeing JD basically at the same age as Dr. Cox was when he first started the show. Um, and of course, we really got to thank for those us fan scrubs or Scrubs fans. We really have to say thank you to Jason Sudeikis for making Bill Lasso such a big hit. That enabled Bill Lawrence to be able to flex his creative muscles and bring back Scrubs, because they've been talking about bringing it back for years, but nothing was ever really gotten off the table. Now that Bill Lasso has come on and done very, very well, why not? All right. See, I kept us talking about entertainment shows, but our guest has rung the door, and thank you for coming in. Thank you for everybody's watching on the replay. I appreciate it. And let's go get our guest, actress and screenwriter and journalist, Chaise Cortes De Vargas. And I said the name right. Hey, there she
Hi.
is.
Here I am.
There you are. There you are. I was just before you got here, I was talking about one of my favorite shows, and I was reading it on IMDb that there looks like they're gonna give Scrubs another season. They're gonna go ahead and run it again. I guess they call it a soft reboot. I love that show. That show was one of my very favorite shows that I've ever seen, and ever since I could watch, uh, ever since I could watch TV. I really enjoyed that show. It was a perfect picture. It was a perfect pitch between just belly laughs and then a lot of drama. Uh, I went through. I mean, every time I really need like comfort food, like, or just to get out of here for a while, I'll grab a season of that and I'll watch it. Um, how about you? Do you have a TV show or a movie that you grab and sit down and just lose yourself for 2 or 3 hours?
Um, well, it's actually in my head. um, Although lately I rarely watch TV, though I love it and I adore it. But I am working on a project where I sit there and I watch it, and it is very close to my heart. It's called Ordinary Heroes: The Crosses We Bear. But before I touch on that, it's really What We Do in the Shadows. Um, that kooky group of vampires from Staten Island that really are shooting in Toronto. They're just ridiculous and over the top. And that's what I do when I want to lose myself. But I'm so happy to hear that they're doing that reboot, because that really is a great show, Scrubs.
It really was, and it still is. You try, you watch it now, and it holds up brilliantly. It really does. Um, and you start thinking about all the cast members that like it had a huge cast toward the end, and it's like, well, how many can you get? How many can you get back? Because they're all pretty popular. I know that the gentleman who played Ted, he's gone. And the gentleman who played Dr. Kelso, I'm sure he's way past retirement. And Judy Reyes, who played Carla, she has a leading role in another ABC show called High Potential. And I mean, it's just trying to track down the cast members. How many of the original ones are you going to bring back? And to me, I would hope that they would bring back a character called Denise. She appeared in the 8th and the 9th season, and a lot of fans, Scrub fans, they'll sit there and say that the 9th season doesn't count. Well, they're not true. They're not true fans, because the 9th season, actually, believe it or not, even though it was only 13 episodes, they had some really good shows on there. They had some strong episodes on there, and I would love to see her to come back and come back on the Eliza Cooper. I'd like to see her come back and be a part of this.
Yeah, that would be great. Like I haven't had the pleasure of seeing the 9th season, but absolutely bringing the whole show back, and also the team of writers, because
Yeah.
they were the ones. I mean, the actors always interpret it right and bring those pages to life, but yeah, it would be a tall order to bring back also the writers that also captured that magic. But I would love to see this new reboot 2.0 for Scrubs.
It'd be, I when I was reading that, the one first thing they did was laughing, because I'm going like, when I saw this, when they saw this show being announced on the fall schedule, and I mean, it's so hard. I mean, this being a screenwriter, how hard what's more difficult to, and our film director Michael Menard just walked in, and he also is a screenwriter. It's got to be damned hard to find an original script. Other than budget, other than budgeting, people always say it's always the story after the budget. It has got to be so freaking hard to come up, not with a story, but an original story. A story anybody can come up with. Me and my Cheetah, we can come up with a story. But to come up with a fresh story that hasn't been heard before, that's got to be so hard to do.
Well, there are, yes, I would agree. A lot of stories have been recycled through Hollywood, resurrected, redone, rebooted, everything, but there are original stories. And it just so happens I have one that is really going to change the paradigm of what we know heroes are forever.
I mean, do you feel comfortable talking a little bit about that a little bit later on in the show?
Sure, I would love to, even though it's like yes, absolutely, I would love to.
What I'm really excited about, because you and I, we got to talk a little bit before the show today, and man, it's it's funny. It's funny, not funny. It's funny to sit here and think that we're going to be talking about SAG-AFTRA, and it's really, I laid down afterwards, and I'm going like, my mind was just buzzing with what we're talking about, and how it just seems like every contract comes up, and it seems like all the actors lose a little bit more every time it happens. They're not gaining anything. They're not even holding court. They're getting whittled down, a little bit at a time. And to sit there and see them with their happy-go-lucky faces saying, "Yeah, we're getting you the best deal," and we both know it's wrong. Um, it's I mean yeah. I think I froze here. Let me see if I can unfreeze myself here.
You're good. I can see you. You're working just fine. Now you froze. Oh, now you're sideways. Now you froze.
Okay.
Okay.
You and I were talking about the SAG-AFTRA. Now, we're talking about this because ever since it's been settled, I've been talking to a lot of independent filmmakers. Some people work in networking and network shows and whatnot. And everybody keeps on saying one constant reminder over and over and over, and that is everything is slowed down. Everything is slowed down. And it doesn't look to appear to be any better. It's not like it doesn't look like it. It seems like a lot of shows are, before the network TV shows that we have, they almost like four or five creators pretty much have monopolized network TV. You have Dick Wolf, you have the who owns, he has like 8 or 9 TV shows up and running on network TV. You have the people who run the 9/11 show. Basically, network TV was a cutting place for new talent, new actors, new directors. That's where you developed a lot of your core faces. You want to get them on your shows so people would see them. Back in the 70s, ABC and to some extent CBS and NBC, what they used to do was they would get a show like a Murder She Wrote or a Love Boat, and then what they would do for a lot of those shows was to introduce the people that were working for the network. Basically, not only were the networks TV, not were they feeling a need for TV for hours per week, but they were developing their own stars. It seems like star making is no longer happening. It's not. It's no. I mean, I can only name one actor right now that I've seen has been made up the old-fashioned star maker way. Otherwise, it's just been a roll of the dice. And I don't know if that's healthy either for TV or streamers or what have you. I think part of it has to be developing new faces and new talent as part of the job. As far as I'm concerned, of a network, it's like they need to do that. But in order to do that, they also have to be paid. They have to be compensated fairly. And to me, it's like, well, we want you to come on our TV show here. We want to make you a star. Well, before you could make a star out of somebody after 100 episodes of a TV show. Now, not so much. Now it's 10 episodes. You got 10 episodes to make somebody a star, because they're not going to wait around 8 years or 9 years to get as many shows underneath the belt that would take to kick in syndication. It seems to be a mess. And you and I were talking about this earlier, and you told me. One of your reasons why you think it's a mess, and I want to talk to you about that. We know that, and it's so striking too. We know that part of it's funny. It's like part of the reason why we're in the struggle. A lot of filmmakers are in the struggle. It isn't because the corporate suits. And we've all been trained to look at the corporate suits and saying they're the big evil one. But it's not always that. But it's not always that way, is it?
Yeah. With the advent of streaming, and Netflix, they changed the entire format of the way we know TV is pretty much packaged and sold. We used to have, the 9th, 11th, even 15th season. And yes, these actors had time to develop. But now it's just like, because of Netflix and the Orange is the New Black shows of the world, it's just they're more concerned about churning out lots of content, lots of shows. So instead of investing and putting their money and time in a show to develop it, it's easier, according to their algorithm and their numbers, to make many shows. And they're lucky if they get to the sixth season. So for them, it's all about churning out this factory of content. And granted, it's great for shows that you can grow to love quickly. And also, there's no, like we were talking about before, there was this format that these network shows would follow. Hey, it was September through May, and then you waited for the next season. But now Netflix turned everything around and said, hey, here's an entire season for you to watch. Watch it. And then after that, you have something else to watch. And then people just grew more accustomed to having these very short seasons of an entire season of a show. On top of that, having these different shows available all the time. So they fed the masses into their ADHD. Hey, we got this show. No, you don't like that? We got this show. We got that show. We got this show. And so people now expect that. And there's so much competition that now the networks are forced to, hey, like we were discussing earlier, you don't have the numbers anymore, right? You were saying that yourself. 5 million, and it's a hit. People viewing, and that's garbage. Back in the day, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's back in the day, but TV was an event. It really was. Like, just even more recently, like Charlie Brown, when they came on during the October, November, December, everybody stopped to watch that. Yeah. And now it's, you can watch Snoopy on Apple anytime, and he's got like 3 different shows going on.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely right. It used to be a massive event, I remember, many of the old TV shows that come on, whenever there was a new season, let's say they're in the 4th or 5th season, and it had been established hit, they used to have 2-hour season premieres. They used to make they would make a movie for the premiere. It was like, this is must-watch TV, here we go. Now it's like, and the thing is, you get 10, and the thing is, though, it's like people like to watch movies. They like to get invested in it. They like to talk about it with other people and whatnot. But you throw 10 shows out there at one time, it's over within a month, and then you have nothing to talk about. And a lot of people just fade off. There's no loyalty built to the show or bulletin boards or stuff like that. There's no talking about it, because now I have to wait a year, maybe, if they don't cancel it, because there's a lot of shows that come out on streaming that are canceled after one season. We're mentioning people talking about 5 or 6 seasons, and it's like, I'm just thinking to myself, man, if any Apple TV show or Amazon show gets past 3 years, that's a miracle, because they don't do that anymore. How can you? And the thing is, so it's like, to me, as the advertisers go, that's the other concept where money is made. It's like, man, as an advertiser, I'm sitting here going like, I don't really want to invest my money, because it's like you got that one 10 to 12 episode blurge on network TV. I don't even know how you survive. I would love to talk to an executive an ad executive who does TV. I'd love to find out how they live. It's got to be the most frustrating job in entertainment right now, to try to be an advertiser, to sell advertisement. It's got to be. You see what's on TV now. It's just absolutely dreck.
Yeah, like we were talking about, it's what you see is the safe bets. What are those? First responder shows.
consultant.
The old stuff that people are still wanting to watch on the networks, because a lot of people have gone to streaming. They've cut the cord, and because of that, loyalties have been cut. And you used to have, like what you just said, you watch, there's 10 shows, and you're watching one show, I'm watching another. And there was always that wonderful aspect that you could discuss the following day or the following week this show. But if everyone's watching something else, there's nothing really to talk about until that person is actually caught up, if they ever catch up, because there's so much to choose from. That does help actors, but as we certainly can touch on with the SAG settlement, it hasn't really gotten any better for us actors post settlement, and it's very slow. I've spoken to tons of actors on set who all tell me the same story. They're like, we don't have enough work.
Right.
We are not getting enough auditions. No matter how good you are, even big names aren't getting as much work. And actors that are background and stand-in, that we're all, even if we have principal roles, we're forced to take that and a lot more. I say it was a mistake that SAG-AFTRA took this settlement so soon. We could have held out longer, and we didn't. And we certainly could have, because we all have second and third jobs. We're insulated. We're designed by the studios to survive a strike. Okay, we're not on set, but we're all surviving. And insurance, that's a joke. Most of us can't afford it. So we were all designed to outdo the studios and make them hurt. And we didn't do that.
No. And he didn't do it and they didn't do it the year before. And I think what was the deal for this time, Chase? Was it 2 years or 4 years? I think it was 2 years again, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 years.
So basically, you got a year. You got next year. Next year, you're going to be right back to where we are, where you were last year.
We saw an increase, but there's so many things like AI. We didn't quantify it. There's this rule, right? So an actor goes on a set, and there's one in particular right now, especially in the New York market, that is scanning actors. And you go on there, and they ask you, can we scan you? You have the choice to say yes or no. And if you say no, they won't call you back. Simple as that. Yeah. Okay.
And you knew that was coming. You knew that was coming. There's not a single actor working today that can really look at each other and act surprised by that. You knew that was going to happen. Once they asked you and you said no, was within your rights. They're going to blacklist you. They're going to sit there and say, nope, we're not going to call them. And of course, that was going to get out and about too. And people were sitting there. Boy, I advertised for this comedy. I didn't get it because I didn't do the AI thing. Well, damn well that's going to cast over every single active production in New York, as far as that goes. And then they're not. You're right. They're not going to call you, and you're going to be sitting there wondering, what did I do wrong? Well, you didn't. You didn't do anything wrong. You were just protecting yourself.
Agreed. And even if you agree to it, all right, there are rules, there's policies. Who's policing these policies? Once you get scanned, they say, oh, we will only use you for this production. Okay. But that's why getting scanned, No one's going to review the tape. No one's going to say, "Oh, there you go. Oh, you're on here unauthorized." We can recover. There's no police. There's no force. We're only taking their word for it, and that doesn't help anyone. I mean, yes, like a lot of actors, like such as myself, you can't replace us yet, right? Because we have that emotional human component. That
Isn't it scary though? Isn't
you
it
know,
scary how you said
that
that?
range,
It,
but
it's
that AI
they
is going
can't,
to catch up
they can't,
quick.
yeah, they can't replace us yet.
Yeah,
And it's, but the way it's going, the way it's coming, it's like you just know that the last two negotiations, and quite honestly, since I'm not in the union, I'm not an actor, so I can cut loose as a fan and sit there and say, whoever negotiated for you, every single one of them down to the last one coming through carrying the coffee. What are you that you should step down? You should step down. You are the poorest negotiators I've ever seen for anything. You're sitting out there saying like you got something, we won something, hearing seeing you cheering, and it's like you're acting like the only thing you won is the right to breathe till tomorrow night, and then you have to go through this all over again. It's a poor, I know. I think you get doesn't don't people get voted onto boards? Like how do you pick your negotiators? I think it's by vote, isn't it?
yes, there are elections.
See, that's
Um,
wrong right there. It's like, why are you voting? Why are you voting? You should be able to go and get the 12 toughest negotiators, and that means you get them from the outside. You get them from the outside. Sit there and say, I don't think we can. I don't think I'm an actor. I'm not a negotiator. I'm not going to be able to do that. My concern is of finding some jobs. I'd rather go ahead and have us hire the best 12 negotiators to go out there and get us the best jobs. What's your six biggest concerns in the industry right now? And then they can watch them, and they can watch and read and come up with a comprehended battle plan on how to get how to both to compensate you and also protect your rights in the future. Now we have actors doing it, and those actors, I mean, look, even a no one, like, even just a casual fan like myself, man, we know horseshit when it's horseshit. I don't need to taste it nor to know it's horseshit. I can smell it from here. And the last two negotiations that we've had have just been really bad.
agreed. I had such high hopes with this strike that our solidarity as actors supporting each other, we had real strength in numbers, and we had a great expectation of how it would turn out. So more actors could afford insurance, and our poverty wages would go up. I mean, I think we're the only union of all unions where the members that pay dues and go out there and work can't afford the insurance. This is just as bad as Walmart. I
Yeah.
mean, it's atrocious. And I agree with you with regards to, hey, I could see bullshit too. And mind you, when I was on that line, I believed in my union that they will get the best contract for us. And there were superstars on the line. And you know what? I took my broadcast news background and I interviewed actors on the line. I did compilations about issues that pertain to us as actors that are important to us. And I got real genuine answers. And you know, we're not trying to be rich. The ones that make all the money are the 1% of the 1% in Hollywood. We're just trying to make a livable wage. And even with that, it came short. Like the rates that are paid non-union compared to union, there's barely a difference. I mean, you're easily 8 hours on set for a background actor, and they're making $216. I mean, you do the math; it's garbage.
Yeah.
And remember, some people would say, "Oh, well, that's real good money." No, it's not, because you're having to hustle every single day
Yeah.
to be on set, to make that one day. So most actors don't make $26,000, which they were trying to go from 80% to 60%. So uh, from like 80%, they can't afford their insurance, and insurance is $26,000 a year. They were trying to go from the 80% that can't afford it to, I mean, from 80% can afford it. And they wanted to lower those numbers so more actors could afford insurance. The truth is, I don't see the numbers yet. And it's hovering, I'm sure, around 80% that can't afford it, which is atrocious.
I remember. I don't think it was this. I don't think it was this cycle. But maybe it was the year before, the contract beforehand. But I remember Sharon Stone coming out and saying how she was going to lose her insurance because she couldn't. I think she was like a $150 short for it or whatnot. But just the fact that she actually said that she could actually lose her insurance, and you're thinking to yourself, going like, wow, like of all people, you think that would not have to worry about that. It'd be somebody on that level, okay, because she had a very active career. She made a lot of people a hell of a lot of money. You would think that, you don't really ever, you really never got the impression that, that I'll say the two for one thing. A lot of the older actors, you never get the impression from them that they're all out there spending their money. Like you see a lot of young actors out there and People Magazine or whatnot, but a lot of the older actors, they recognize when things start slowing down, and for the most part, they do compensate for that. Like, okay, so maybe 10 less trips to Bermuda this year or something like that. Or I'm just throwing that out there, but but when you see somebody who's considered an A-lister, and you sit there and they're sitting there saying how they're going to lose their insurance because they couldn't pay for the last few $100. Man, to me that's like a fire siren. That's screaming alarm. Like this is going to happen for someone like if this can happen to someone like Sharon Stone, what happens to people like myself who are just getting on there and trying to get on a guest list or background, like you said, or anything? I mean, I absolutely have zero chance. And then I think the other thing you and I talked about that really just blew my mind. I mean, it's supposed to be solidarity, and there's two incidents at the last negotiating cycle that I want to mention, and that is, um, for one thing, they mentioned how they you got actors that were getting exemptions to go offline and finish films. Um, Maybe because they weren't union or what have you. I'm not sure. I just know there was a lot of movies getting exemptions from the union, saying that you can go finish your movie or whatnot. And I just thought, wow, that's just you're defeating your own purpose. Nobody at all should work. The more solidarity you have, the better it is. Then you had the screenwriters, the Writers Guild. They're on strike first. They're on strike first, and then the acting people, they went ahead and they endorsed that, and they stood with those members. All they had, and knowing full well that both sides are going to be coming together to strike together. And I also think that I don't, man. I should have looked this up. Maybe it was producers. I want to say maybe it was producers that settled beforehand. And all I know is that they should have stayed out. They should have stayed out. They should have stayed in 2 months because they knew the acting strike was going to happen. So, and for them to sit there and say, yeah, we've hung out for so far, this long so far. Let's hang out a little bit longer, and it would have paid off because you can Hollywood will tell you, well, we can get actors. and Hollywood say we can get writers, but Hollywood won't tell you you can get writers and directors at the same time. Colby says a directors guild. Yes. See, now directors, if they would have stayed on picket, if
Hi,
they would have
Kobe.
stayed if they would have stayed on picket, I think everybody would have gotten everything they wanted. I really do. I really believe that the more united you are, the more you'll get. You stand together, you fall together. I think that's what I think happened. I think the directors, when they settled, instead of just hanging out there and hanging tough for a couple more months, I think that's one of the reasons why we are where we are right now.
Agreed. I think solidarity was critical, paramount for SAG to be successful in their negotiations. But because everyone, the studios offered the WGA what they needed, and they actually got a really pretty good contract, and they were out. And so that left us. And they just wanted to squeeze us. And they, of course, the AMPTP disrespected us. They even pulled what is very trendy in politics right now. You blame someone else instead of take responsibility. They were blaming us actors for their shortcomings, for their actions. It was ridiculous to see their antics. It was like seeing children in a playground, whereby the kid that commits the infraction blames the kid that's the victim. And that happened all the time. It was just a common occurrence with the AMPTP, so they could buy more time for themselves, whatever it is that we're doing. But they were certainly trying to squeeze us. Now, if the WGA and the DGA would have stayed on that whole time with us, and it was for the best that they did, because you can't do anything without actors. So, and a lot of other industries were also hurting. You had catering, you had wardrobe, makeup, pyrotechnics, locations. It goes on and on and on. And so, great. The Directors Guild have their deal. The Writers Guild has theirs, and they're starting to write again. But that left us. And our negotiators, I'll tell you.
Your negotiators were dog shit. I can say that. I can say that because I saw the last two cycles, and they didn't negotiate worth a shit. And even the rank and file and the groups I was in, I was sitting there like a fly on the wall, and I was watching all these folks that were part of SAG-AFTRA, and to a person, there was nobody in there saying, yeah, they're working the best for us. I didn't see anybody say that at all. They were all sitting there like all these rich people are negotiating on our behalf, and they have no idea what they're doing. I mean, the deals got worse and worse and worse. Everybody talked about the AI. Everybody talked about the residuals. Everybody wanted to talk about that, and nothing got talked about. They didn't get addressed. Same thing happened for this cycle. Didn't get addressed at all. And that's what everybody was looking for. Everybody's like, okay, are you gonna get us? Are you gonna save us from AI? And two, now can you? Because now, since there's so many streaming services, and they're all playing a lot of the same stuff. I mean, even the old TV shows that have disappeared for years suddenly start popping up on all these streamers. All these Cozy TV and Me TV and all that other, with shows that haven't been seen on network TV or TV at all for a good 20, 30 years since the independent TV station went bye-bye. Now here they are getting played again. And now they're sitting there saying, well, we don't owe you anything because we paid you what was in the contract, which was there was no streaming services back there, people. There's nothing there to protect us. So all we're doing now is asking you to go back there and protect us now. That's all you have to do. And what makes it even worse is not only are they negotiating you out from from streaming services, they're streaming you in the future, because now there's no such thing as physical media. Now physical media is being whittled down as well. Less money there, all money over here. It's if we weren't in such a hot mess world, somebody in Congress that wanted to have a little bit of attention on them, they could actually make a case for a monopoly.
What you said, beginning with the negotiators, there is always self-interest when it comes to, yes, you want to help your people, but after time passes, we start to see the cracks, and there was cracks indeed. It would have been wonderful to have the type of negotiators that the WGA had, but we just didn't have that. We had our president. She's famous, and most of our presidents are basically, it's a popularity contest, and they're all famous. She spoke well, but it's not whether you speak well and you know how to raise your fist up high. It's really about results. And the results that I see were basically minimal. I have my sources that are on the inside. I'm not going to name them, but they really opened my eyes, because I was part of the group of actors that are all these cheerleaders that believe, and I want to believe. But when I started speaking to these folks that are insiders, that are delegates, that have run for office, the ugly aspect of business, and it is show business, raises its ugly head. And these sources told me, just even from this, I'm talking about like just a local delegate, there's money even than that. They had to, for example, to run. Yes, you can run, but then you have to pay for the mailing list in order to send your pitch to fellow members, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It should be available for free. You're already paying for that privilege.
Oh my God! Well, I wonder what happened. I really would love to find out what would happen if a group of, well, we already know that the 1% of the 1%. We already know, the ones that were donating meals on the line. When you hear that, it's like, wow, look at that. So and so sent $1 million worth of pizza on the line, and food for. It's like, yes, they have what you don't. They can do that. They can do that. They can, and it's like they can do that because they have the money. They're protected, and it's like, the average person can't do that. They're just trying to. I always thought it was sort of condescending to do that. I thought it really was. It's like, what's a nice thing for them to do? No, not really. It's a slap in the face, because they're trying to get to where they can do that themselves. They don't want a handout. They want to work.
Amen. We all want to work. We want to earn a livable wage and have benefits. But when you have, and this is coming from sources that are in the union, when you have the interest, when you have actors, right, that are superstars, that are part of the union, and they also have an interest in the studio, there's a conflict of interest there. where it's not in your best interest as the superstar that can afford to buy $1 million worth of pizza. It's not in your interest to get a good contract because you're making money being part of that studio. And it's interesting if you, like we had touched on, if you since these studios, AMPTP, they're privately owned. We don't know who owns them, and that in of itself is, it's a mystery. And so they don't need to show any type of records. And so now you have this system that's rigged.
I
You have,
mean, even if you ask the negotiators, can we see your W-2? Can we see who, because since you're someone who got voted into office, we like to see your tax forms. We like to see who donated to your campaign. Now, what do you think the chances are that French wrestler would actually sit there and say, "Okay, let me show you"? Yeah.
well, I don't know if she's that I'm not certain with regards to like receiving donations, but I think it has more to do with popularity and having powers behind the curtain.
She didn't seem very popular in the groups that I was in. I was in like 4 groups, IMDb groups, when they were talking about the strike, and they weren't talking about her before the strike, and they certainly weren't. They didn't like her before the strike, and they certainly didn't like her after the strike. And they really felt like they sent a bunch of kids to do an adult's job. They got totally screwed. I mean, everybody coming out there, coming out trying to put the brave face on, saying, "Look what we got," and everybody's sitting there going like, "I'm still looking," because I'm not seeing it.
It's all interest based, and like when you're on the outside, you're like, "Hey, I want to help everyone," and then when you're in the inside, you're like, "Oh, well, that's not in my interest. Just stay quiet." There are superstars that own part of studios that help to place the heads of SAG in their place, and it will probably always be like that. And this is coming straight from these sources that tell me that the heads of SAG are purposely placed there according to what your groups and IMDb say. They're very accurate. And it will be like that because, all power, right, corrupts. And, afterwards, I'm sure negotiators were, and this is what I've heard, that negotiators, especially our lead negotiator, he's named after a country, by the way, he fractured. And we don't know what happened behind doors. I saw him on the line, but I don't know. It's like it's exactly politics, except it's not done by the public. It's done by the members of SAG. But hey, people are looking for work afterwards, and having guarantees and playing the ball game according to the studio system is good for your career because we all have to have a backup. And these folks definitely are making sure that they're taken care of.
Oh yeah, of course. Now, before you got into acting, you mentioned you've heard you mention, Chase, that you were a journalist. So how did you get inside journalism, and where did you work at? Were you a TV journalist? Were you a print journalist?
Yes. So I started in Bernard and Baruch College. Yes, I actually graduated there, unlike a politician that lied about it. I'm very proud of that alma mater. I graduated from journalism, creative writing, and my first, I interned at New York One. I worked at New York One. I went to News 12, New Jersey, and Edison. I also went to Telemundo, 47, New York, Univision, 41. These are the Spanish channels at the equivalents of NBC and ABC Espanol. I speak Spanish fluently. And I also went to CBS 3 in Philly and FiOS, RNN FiOS 1 News in Rye, New York. I worked in the capacity of assignment editor and field producer, and I loved it, but it was the type of job that was very stressful because you have to create content out of nowhere, 5 to 7 hours a day for each show. You got to create an hour, right? Content. And so it's very stressful to create content from scratch in editorial.
I mean, even in New York?
Yeah, it's extreme. Because think about it. You might have some follow-ups from the evening before, some long form journalism, right? But your leads are usually coming from breaking, and you find angles. That's how you create new content. And you sit around a desk, actually a boardroom, with a group of journalists, editors, writers, producers, reporters, cameramen, anyone. And you start pitching ideas, and that's how you begin formulating and setting the tone for your entire day. Now, granted, there is breaking news, and we do have alerts from police and first responders, and we also have for politicians that send in their pressers announcements, and that's how we build our day. But it's so much easier to build your day when you're working from a script. It's really child's play. It's just a matter of everyone has to show up, and we have to turn the camera around. We have to come in closer. Now, mind you, it is hard work because you're working 12, 14, 16 hours a day. But compared to news, man, there's nothing like news.
Oh, I think New York was just, the number one news city in the world. Colby mentions says, I suggest that SAG ask the top 10% to make tax deductible donations to fund ultra low budget and low budget projects. Why not? They certainly could do that. I mean, they could easily do that. I mean, the top 1% are still making coin, and let me tell you, they're not worrying about residues. They're getting their residues. That's for
residuals.
sure.
Yeah, they're getting residuals, but residuals are going further downward. And yes, like Kobe says, yes, they can fund new production studios, new movies, new everything. And yes, there are some that actually do. But the actors are quietly vested in studios we're unaware of. And, make that engine work in your favor because now you're on top. And, it's difficult times. People can either sit there and complain or change things. I choose to change things.
Yeah, I think choosing is the right idea. And honestly, I would have been changing things the minute that they came out and didn't give us a damn thing. As far as AI goes, or residues, or rich, past payments. As soon as they came out and they had the same old platform they had going inside there, I would have fired every single one of them. I would have fired. Nope, you're not doing it the next time. And the people that are voting. I mean, I saw, and the thing is, I saw people who voted because they're, actors are they're one thing. If they're not one thing, they're very adamant when they vote. They're very vocal about it. I voted, whatever the issue it may be. But for the local for the local boards and the local groups from SAG. They're very proud of that. And they go on their social media and they say, I voted, or I'm running, or whatnot. That's
Yeah.
great. But
We're
everyone,
very passionate.
go ahead.
We're a very passionate group because we're creators. We love what we do. The thing is, they take advantage of our passion.
Yeah.
And reduce us and marginalize us, minimize us. If we all decided to change the paradigm, and yes, we can, and yes, we will. And as a result of what I saw in the strike, I have decided to take it upon myself to create my own production. In fact, from the picket lines, I cast my entire movie. They're actually professional actors. And even some of my team a production team, is from the picket, because the old studio system has to change. Now, Netflix has changed the studio system somewhat by faster turnarounds, by making people move from the old system of watching the networks to going streaming. And they've changed what it is to watch television. Now you watch, it's catered. You watch whenever you want, right? According to the time you have, which is brilliant. But they also, through their metrics, have chopped down what an opportunity for great shows to happen and to continue. We had their big show was Orange is the New Black, but now they look at the metrics. It's better than to develop a show. Hey, we could have 6 different shows for one season, like you had mentioned. So that way people have more content. And that's what they're concerned with. They're not concerned with development. No. And so now it's upon us actors. Look, my last question to actors on the line was the most pertinent one. And I never released this, and I am going to release it because I believe it's very important. I said, do you think our value as a union is based on someone else's? Our self-worth is based on what the studios validate us. Our self-worth is based on someone else's value. And they all said no. Then why are we looking for a contract? And all of them just paused.
See, you and I were talking earlier about this with a different twist on it, and that is we were talking about Kamala Harris and how like Kamala got she lost, and she lost, and it's like, and everybody's pointing at, all the Democrats are pointing at the Republicans saying, you voted this in, you're gonna, whatever's going to happen is going to be on you, whatever. And in actuality, it's like, what's going to happen to the unions going forward with the acting. It isn't always going to be on the studios. Yes, they're not always just the big bad guy. There's a lot of people out there helping them get to where they're at. And like you mentioned before, there's a lot of people within the SAG-AFTRA itself that are out there taking the coin, weakening it, making it less important. The same thing with Kamala Harris. Did Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris straight up? Hell no. He had a hell of a lot of help. He had a lot of help in making sure that didn't happen. And it came from a lot of people who wake up in the morning and call themselves Democrat. They didn't take care of business. Now that was, after the voting from 2 years ago, or the second, or before this last contract, that is when everybody should have been doing what we're talking about doing now. What we're talking about doing now should have happened 4 years ago. And it's like, and the thing is about the union is there's nothing people like me can do to help you. other than support you. But there's nothing I can do. I have no influence on how to make that better for you. There's nothing I can do. Whereas, before, yes, but now it's like it's totally up to you. And reading those people's, the comments inside those SAG groups, it seems like well, one, we're gonna have to go over the rules and make it more accessible for the rank and file to be heard, because the rank and file was not heard at all. Fine, you really
Well,
obviously they weren't listened to at all, because we wouldn't be having the problems where we are now for actors if the rank and file had actually got a chance to actually stand up there and be heard.
yeah, that's so true. Um, we were great cheerleaders, great pawns.
Yeah,
We were on the pickets. We were doing our second and third jobs that we still do, but yet we didn't see the results that really would have allowed us to pursue our passions with more motivation and have more belief in what we're doing. What we saw was, hey, here's a crumb. And let's continue that trickle down economics. But a lot of we have ourselves to blame and
of
those
course.
that we elected to have in power, same
Yeah,
as like you mentioned, Kamala and us as Democrats. Um, but then, like we were discussing, that girl, she really didn't have.
no,
She became very close, but with 2 or 3 months, wow, that's not a lot of time to
no.
develop a
She
profile.
did a miracle job. She had everything against her, and she got out there and she blistered it.
Yeah, I agree.
Overcoming the Russians, overcoming the neo-fascists, overcoming lot disinformation from the media. I mean, for her to come up there and come as hard as she could, but she also had to deal with the cancer within her own party, and that can't be ignored. It can't be ignored. It's like the next cycle for actors. If you don't address it now, like draw up the five top items, and I would be interesting to see if you you as tapping inside your journalist side. I would be very interested to see if off the camera, off the record, but still, talk to us like you were talking now, and find out how many, and get as highest rate actors as you possibly could get, and talk to them about what they expect for the next round of negotiations. Do they expect it to go better? Do they expect to see reforms? Do they expect, and what are they doing to make sure that it happens? Did they learn from their mistake? Because listen, they're not going to have. What do you think they have? Honestly, Chase, do you really think that? Do you think? Hey, it's Don Zombie. What's going on, Don? Um, let me be honest with you. Do you really think you can have any more? If they can't get it right the next time, if they can't get it right the next time, and there's no changes at all. There's no none of that. The status quo. I were talking earlier about how far network TV would last. Some people say 8 to 10 years before it goes away as we know it. How soon will acting go away as we know it? If the studios finally get through and get AI pushed through, because all these people here that are being asked to take pictures of, and they're saying no. They're saying the right thing, and please don't take my, I don't want to be scanned. But they're also being told too, well, if you don't scan it, well, we're not going to use you. And there should be recriminations for that. Like the union should sit there and say, well, what casting director was that? Well, it was XYZ, XYZ. Well, let's go see what their record is and how many people said no, and see how many people they petitioned for afterwards to get jobs. Are they if that's what they're doing, then we need to make sure our business is going through them. We need to tell our members, like, don't go through that. If they're running an audition, don't do business with them. I mean, they have that right. I mean, there's several places where the unions have said, don't do business with such and such studios, and because they're trying to protect the rank and file. They're sitting there going, like, these people are not this. they're shady. They do a lot of shady business. They're not necessarily within the United States. You can get hurt physically. You could get hurt by working with these people. There's no safety net. I mean, I know there's a lot of powerful tools the union have to protect actors, but yeah, and like Tom says, the attitude. Um, like to me, hearing a directing cast director um, ask somebody to and this again, casting directors, I think they're a union as well, right? Are they not? Are they a union themselves, or just or
Not
they
that I know
independent?
of that there's like a casting director union, but if there is, it's news to me.
Uh,
Um,
I
that's
just think
actually brilliant that you mentioned that. Yes, why not someone at the union
mhm.
go to that production and see how many folks, yes, and do some forensics, but they're under no obligation as the casting director to do so
Well,
because there's probably
so
no repercussions for that
right.
casting director because we have the SAG is on that end stick where everyone has, and then they were just trying to grab the crumb. You know, since the 50s, there when live TV became recorded, we didn't know how to quantify that then. And so we were behind the eight ball of how to quantify that monetarily to make it to make it just justifiable for us actors to get compensated, right? In the form of residuals. Because now there's no live. Now you have recorded television. And we were behind that eight ball. And when we came back, by then they've already insulated themselves and we're trying to get the crumbs. Same thing now with AI. There's millions of hours that are being viewed just in streaming. We're not even talking about AI, just in streaming alone. How do
Right.
we quantify that? We don't. Before streaming, we could pull something out, say, look, I'm owed these residuals. But more and more actors, and one of my actors on my project, uh, Ordinary Heroes, I interview him and he's on my channel and he says to me, I mean, it always resonates with me. It always haunts me. He says, I was on an episodic and I got residuals. And he says 16 cents.
Yeah.
16 cents is my residual. And I would get a letter, I would get a stamp. It costs more to print that out than what I got in residual. It's a slap in the face.
What
And it
happened?
always haunts me. He says 16 cents for an episodic.
And what happened was too is like, so I don't know if this is for, see if I'm wrong, correct me, of course. Um, so what happens is where before people would get a lot of money from the residuals because there was only back in the day there would be independent TV stations and there'd be three or four networks, and so the network TV used to show a lot of reruns in the summertime. They show reruns and you get paid for that. And the independent stations, they would have syndication where if a TV show went over 100 episodes, um, they could sell that show for a profit. They would make money for profit. And every TV station, that either one station or a small chain of stations, they would pay a fee toward that to running that show. Like I want to run Friends, okay, it's going to cost you $4,000 per episode for you to run that or whatever it was. I'm sure it's way low, but I mean, it's if you pay us $4,000, you can run that. Um, and then what happened was as the independent stations where bulk of the money came from, As they started going away, becoming more and more owned by the bigger networks, those shows got seen less and less. There's no show. I mean, watching Friends. I mean, yes, that was a very popular show, but let's say Gilligan's Island. And then they say, well, that's been shown every day, ever since it aired. Yes, but it got showed less and less on less and less stations. It was being played, but instead of buying 500 stations, now it's only being played by 200. Next year it might be being paid by 100 because those stations were being bought, and then they were putting their own content on, putting on the talk shows, putting on the soap operas or whatever. All those, it used to be after 11 o'clock, an independent station, or 10 o'clock, an independent station would show episodes of those programs, and the actor would get paid for that. But that's no longer here nor there for a while. For a long time, there was nothing like that. And you would hear people during streaming services, saying, I would like to watch something like I watched when I was a kid. I remember watching that show as a kid. Now you can. Now you have all these free services out there that you can plug in there and watch it. You can watch it through Netflix. You can watch it through everything. But the thing is, though, now the actor who did those works, well, because their contract didn't see this happening. When they negotiated, when Server Schwartz sat down with the cast of the castaways, there was no such thing as this. Nobody saw this coming. There was no provisions. Some actors actually, what they did was they actually said, well, I'd rather take a small percentage of the show. I'd rather own a small percentage of the show. So that's what some actors did. They would sit there and say, I'd rather take 5% of the show than residuals. I'd rather do that. I'd rather be part owner of that. But not very many people knew about that, nor did they do that. They wanted more instant money. And so now here we go today. Those shows are being run more than ever before. Even when they're even on the top of the independent television stations, they never ran it like they did now, because they didn't have the well, I love that show. I'm going to watch that episode again and again and again. Before they watched it on independent television, that would be it. You see it and then hope that it would be played again sometime in the next few weeks. It just whittled the bargaining power. It whittled down the bargaining power of all the actors moving forward. I mean, the more advanced the tech got, the more advanced streaming and less the less power that cable got, the less power the actor got. And now they don't have nothing. I mean, even actors. I mean, who, like I said, I was mentioning to you earlier, there's one actor in today's world that said that they were getting. He was on a popular show. He's a star on a very popular show, and he got residuals. Then he went to a show that he was a popular actor. He's on the streaming show, and he gets nothing. He gets pennies to what he used to make for the same amount of work.
Yeah, it also depends on, well, yes, very much it's a very accurate assessment of what you described, because there was less competition. There wasn't all these streaming services that existed and came online back then. So, yes, the actors actually got some decent residuals, and it depended on how the actor negotiated. No one has those deals the way Mr. Seinfeld has. He still, I think, receives $100 million a year in residuals. But those days are long gone.
Yeah.
Now, the union couldn't foresee this, like you said. And so, therefore, they didn't know how to quantify that. The ones that embraced and benefited and are still benefiting are the big studios. And they will, because we're always a contract behind. We're always behind the eight ball. And we'll always remain that till, well, I had it recommended to the SAG actors that were on the line. That I said, hey, why why have our self-worth based on someone else's uh, um, notion of what we're worth? We have the greatest pool of actors in the world. If we were a savvy union, we could easily become the next Netflix that everyone would laugh at. But we have all the talent, and we could easily convert that into our own streaming service.
Yeah, actors only service. I mean, you learn from the past mistakes. You learn from your past mistakes, and then you don't animal farm it either,
No,
right?
I agree.
Isn't that the biggest fear? Is to become what you once were, what you once feared. I call it the animal farm effect. It truly is like that. You start off with the best of intentions, and before you know it, you are what you started to fight against. Uh,
Agreed.
yeah,
That happened to Netflix, except they changed the game to favor them. And now everyone else is trying to catch up to them, and they are catching up to them.
one
But if,
content behind.
if SAG-AFTRA started not only just their members having to struggle and create their own productions, but if SAG-AFTRA took that pool of actors, we could create bring down the studio paradigm and change it by making our own productions and rise as from our own productions made for actors by actors and other unions. If we all came together, we could watch as the studio system burned and we rose.
And
But
it's that's funny too. You mentioned that system too. And that who would ever thought we see that come back? I mean, who would ever thought we see the old studio system come back where talent was signed to multi-year deals? Who would ever thought that we see that? That was gone like in the late '70s, mid '70s. I think. I know there was a well named actor who was the last actor that was going underneath the old studio, old studio under contract. Okay, we're going to keep you under contract for 7 years. And who thought? And once that went away, and actors couldn't do anything. If actors said no to their studios, they would get suspended and wouldn't work. They wouldn't be able to work because they didn't want to do the show. An actor says, "Yeah, that doesn't really work for me. I don't see how that's going to help my career. I don't believe in the storyline." And the studios could sit there and they could literally assign people to movies and TV shows. They weren't put there necessarily through auditions. They were assigned there. They were sitting there going like, "Yeah, we're picking you to do this," and that was all there was to it. They told you to, or if a studio will get paid. Well, we want to borrow your number 3 actor. Okay, that'll be like $750,000. Okay, but the only choice you had was you either did it or you sat on the pine, you sat on a bench. And yeah, here is today, we still got that coming back into play. There's a film company out there now that has gone around and signed up all these people to exclusive deals, meaning they can't go anywhere they want to. Like, I mean, sure, I can understand signing. Listen, I can give you more money than the other studio can. Okay, that's great. Let's work together. But I want a 5-year exclusive deal so that you work just only for us. And I don't know what's more appalling for that, Chase, is the fact that we still have that mentality, or the fact that some of these actors are feeding into that. It's like you're locking yourself down for 5 years, and then you have to you have to do a certain amount of work for them within 5 years. You have to produce 3 movies, you have to star in 6, all within the next 5 years. And you can sit there and say, yeah, that's I can do that in my sleep. But again, it's like it's whatever they want you to do. Let's say they do come with a movie that isn't your personality, that's not going to appeal to your fan base. Well, yeah, I really don't feel I don't feel my fans will really like seeing me in a role like that. Well, our numbers say different, so you're doing it. And there you go. And
Yeah,
then,
our self-worth as actors is tied to their validation. And until we decide to break away from that, it'll continue to be that way. It'll continue to be the whatever they deem fit, even 7 multi-year contracts, where you're basically like a ball player. You know, you're tied to this contract. You do what we tell you, and you do it, or we'll blacklist you. Hey,
yeah,
and until we,
and let me tell you, there are actors that are blacklisted, and there's nobody going to tell
yes,
anybody what's different. They're, you know, I was on I mean, nothing organic. I agree with you, Tom. I agree with you. Yeah, I was on a little rant myself about 2, 3 weeks ago when Tony Todd passed away, and I saw all these people come up there. They're praising Tony Todd, but they're only mentioning like the only 5 projects, the biggest 5 projects that he did. He did over 200. He did over 200 projects, but most fans can name me 5. And I was thinking to myself, watching him, going like, why didn't he get those roles? Why didn't he? I mean, I mean, there were people that were in these movies, or that were or that Tony Todd could act circles around. I mean, why didn't he get a regular role on Star Trek? I mean, he tested extremely well. He's one of the most popular guest stars they ever had. So why didn't he get a role in the next series? Why didn't he get a chance to do that? Why didn't he get a chance to do the next action hero? I mean, there's a lot of made for video movies with some decent name stars that maybe on the way down, or some on the way up. And it's like, why didn't he get that? Well, because he was blacklisted. He got stuck doing some of the lowest of the low budget movies. He was probably lucky to get his rate, and if he did, because by the amount of scenes, you could tell that he didn't get paid a lot of money just for the fact that he popped up in one maybe 2 scenes. And it's like, well, why didn't he get that shot? Well, he got blacklisted. It still happens. I don't. I'm sure all of us sitting here are hearing this or hearing my voice. And in fact, if you guys want to make this more interesting, think of an actor that you've really enjoyed recently, and all of a sudden they have just dropped off the planet. Like, I dropped off the planet, and you start to see them in really low budget movies, real low budget. And we're
if
not talking about people who've self-destructed either. We're talking about people who went from being very well respected, done some pretty damn good, decent shows, TV shows, to all of a sudden it's like, wow, I wonder what that person's doing today, because you haven't seen them in a year or so.
you
Um,
know, that brings up someone that I interviewed on the line. Um, he's from Billions. He's his name's Dollar Bill. Yeah, I don't know if you watch Billions, but he was a big principal actor, and I love him because I asked him a question, and I said, if you were in front of the studio, um, across the table from the studio negotiators, what would you say to them? And he says, he said, pay us what we're worth. He's like, well, actually, he said an explicative. He said, pay us what we're effing worth.
yeah.
And then he starts laughing and he says, that's why I'm not a negotiator. And when he gave me that interview, I loved him for it. He's my hero. Um, Dollar Bill Stern on Billions. But I was actually worried for him, because I said, here is this star that just came out and blatantly spoke out against them. And I'm concerned. I haven't seen him in anything since Billions got canceled. And this was a big show. And I'm just really hoping he pops up somewhere, because I wonder, did that get to the wrong eyes that caused him because he spoke truth to me? I like that. Really, really has bothered me. And I
Yeah,
recommend anyone to go on my channel on YouTube, I mean, and Instagram, and take a look because he says it. And I haven't seen him in anything lately. So, yes, people do get blacklisted.
yeah, yeah,
And there's so many people that are so willing, to go on the casting couch, to to do anything that it takes, that it lowers the standard for everyone, including us professionals,
well,
because they're passionate and they'll do anything to work for free. And so, with that mindset, the studios approach us with that mindset, even though we consistently work and hone our craft, pay countless instructors, go to schools. We're constantly fine tuning our instrument. And they don't see that. What they see is their bottom line, and the less they pay us, the better, because they have more money for their pockets. Because remember, it's show business. And in show business, in a business, including in Wall Street, the middle manager, the VP, the person that's head of a department, they make more money when they spend less, when they
yeah,
save the company money. And it's show business.
yeah. I just think of I was thinking of all those shows they got going on the streaming networks, and most of the time, for every year that a show stays on the air, it becomes more and more expensive and less profitable. When you see someone like you see a show and you go like, wow, that must be just an awesome show. They're just rocking it. Actuality, the show that started behind them 6 years beforehand or when they first started was making more money when they first started than they are now, because everybody's salaries go way the hell up, including the talent. That's why sometimes you'll sit there and watch a show, and like Scrubs season 9, they turn around and said, "Well, we have money, but we don't have money for all of you guys." They didn't have money for they only wanted Judy Reyes to come on for a couple episodes, and she's sitting there going like, "Why? I was part of the show, part of the main cast. Why are you asking me of all people to take to appear only on the show twice?" And she said, "I'm not doing that. I'm not going to degrade myself for that." And she's absolutely right for not doing it. But that's what it does happen.
Yeah,
Um,
she has self respect and professionalism. But like I said before, you know, Orange was the new black. Netflix threw everything at it. And that's why it grew and it went to seasons. But like you said, once people start asking for more money, they quantify that and they look at their numbers and they say, hey, we could have 6 shows for one season. And you know what? People just want more content. They don't give a shit what it is. Excuse the language. We're not going to grow this show where they're asking for more money and take time to grow them. No, we could just make many more shows for, as the show gets more expensive, like you said, we can have many shows that are so much cheaper and more content
basically
because that's
doing the
what
same
people
thing.
want.
You think about all the shows that are getting spun off. There's the one Chicago. Well, Dick Wolf tried to make 5 shows out of that. He tried to make 5 shows out of that. You got the 9/11 show. You got 3 shows, maybe 4. NCIS, you have 4 shows, maybe 5. And every one of them, they keep the name, the brand name. They don't have to spend money on the brand name because it's already out there. So they're already saving money as it is. And then they just keep, and it's brand new with brand new actors, like basically rookie contracts. The actors on NCI Origins is not making anywhere the close to the money that people are making on NCIS. They're just not. But now they can go back to negotiate with the mothership and sit there and say, yeah, we need to cut money on this show here. So maybe we're going to need to lose 1 or 2 cast members. And it's always the cast members that buy the farm anyway, right? We can't have them on the show, or we'll reduce them from being a star to just maybe appearing, recurring. Um, and again, once again, who gets screwed? The actors does. The actors get screwed. It's not their fault that their show was successful. And basically, what you're doing is you're punishing them for their show being successful. Well, we're not making quite as much money on the shows we did before because we had to pay everybody more money. Okay, well, you're saying that like it's a bad thing. The reason why we're here after 22 years and you're paying me more money per episode is because people were watching it. People were supporting the advertisers. I did my part and got paid for it. I don't see how I'm being punished by sitting there saying, well, instead of paying you $150,000 an episode, now we're going to pay you 75. Well, how is my work diminished? Why am I'm still here on time? I'm still here, doing whatever I need to do to promote. I'm doing everything I did last year for $150,000 that you want me to do this year for 75. How's that fair? I mean, does that happen to you? I mean, again, it's like, can I see your bank returns? Can I see your tax returns? Did you get paid less money to come back and be a showrunner this year? For this, the casting directors, did they suffer cuts as well? I mean, no, because and then you always hear about what happens. Like the show seems to have less quality this year. Well, yeah, of course it's going to have, because there's a lot of people that aren't getting paid what they used to. Well, maybe we got to get rid of that. Maybe we get rid of that, the editor or the sound, or there's whatever it is we can do to make our show more profitable. It's like, how much is enough? I mean, a show like NCIS is $1 billion project. It's $1 billion project. And that's not even counting the show that it came from beforehand. That was a massive hit. It's just Tom says it only get worse. Let's get back to the 70s. That's right.
Some great movies and shows in the 70s, but we'll never go back because
the 70s. The 70s were. Whew, I don't know. Can we go to the 80s, Tom? Because the 70s were. Man, there's never been a more darker time to watch movies and TV than it was in the 70s, especially movie-wise. Every movie seemed to have a really bad, sad ending. Everybody who's dying in the 70s.
Yeah, I vaguely remember the 70s. I was but a wee lass. But what I do recall, looking back now at those movies, everybody was just effing crazy.
They were crazy because they were so worried about the Cold War. Everybody was worried about the Cold War. Everybody's like, we're not going to last here. We're going to blow ourselves up. And so all those movies that they had during the 70s, everybody was dying. Before it was always the white hat lived and kissed a girl, and the black hat always got killed a dog and got shot. It always is like that. And even but all of a sudden the 70s came. And all of a sudden, you see all these big name actors that were heroes back then. They were doing movies where they're dying, and it was different. It was like, wow, doesn't seem to be any hope for any of us. I mean, any of us. I know we're supposed to talk about your film, and I have it in the back of my head, and we are. So what I'm going to do for this is we're going to bring you back in January. And we're going to talk more about your how you got your start, and talk about your movie Heroes, because I definitely want to hear about that. I didn't do that today, but again, I had a feeling this would be a good conversation, and I hope it was for you. But next time we will talk about your film and the filming of it, if you don't mind, if it's okay with you.
Absolutely, it's a very original concept that, believe me, will change the paradigm of heroes forever. And I'm so excited about it because it's about real heroes.
And we'll definitely schedule for sure, Chase, to come back and talk about it.
I'm excited.
I definitely want to hear more about it for sure. And Tom just said, "Hell yes, come back." And yeah, we want you to come back, and I saw Colby up there. I have a feeling Colby is an actress as well, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if Colby's still here or not. Hi, Cheryl. How are you? Cheryl's back. Yeah, so that's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and stop this one here now.
Okay.
And then we will. I'll give you a fresh date in January. You'll come back and carry on this conversation.
Thank you.
Oh, there's Colby. Colby's here. I just thought you were here. I take it you're an actress as well. So we'll have to do our best to see if we can get you on here to come talk about yourself. That's always a fun thing to do, isn't it? Do you think?
Yes, absolutely. And it's been a
Go.
lot. It's been great fun being on with you. I mean, honestly, we could probably talk like another 5 hours. Like earlier today, that was a show in of itself. And it
Yeah.
was really, really engaging. I really enjoy being on your show, and I look forward to talking so much more about what's going on. And we can hit politics too. I always like that.
Yeah, we had we barely touched upon it today, but we had a great conversation about that earlier, and maybe that'll be for the third show. I definitely next time you're on here, we're talking about you and your show. I promise you, and I will keep that promise, and we'll talk about it. And I just mentioned to Colby and Tom both said it was a great show today. Yes, it was. I thank you so much for that, Chase. This has been all you, and I appreciate you being so open and honest. And that will wrap it up for today. I want to thank everybody who came out and supported this one. This was a lot of fun. And let me tell you what's coming up because and feel free to share us out too. I mean, if you know anybody at all that likes, showbiz and whatnot, just tell them about the show. We got over 500 episodes underneath our belt. So we pretty much got a handle of what we're doing somewhat. And we'd love to talk to everybody new. I mean, everybody's answers are never the same. I could talk to Tom tomorrow, ask him the very same questions I asked you today, and it's going to be a totally different show. It'll be a totally different dynamic. So next week we have 4 shows again. We have filmmaker Ed Castaneda from Subliminal Ed Films. He'll be here on Tuesday. On the 11th, we have young filmmaker Brad Case. On the 12th, we have the lovely Stephanie Ward. She is a cosplayer, actress, and she looks to be ultra talented. I'm very excited to have her on the show. She looks like she puts my favorite cosplayer. She's like standing in the shadow. She's not. She's really, really good. Stephanie is very good. She'll be here on the 12th, and then we have a crew coming in on the next Friday. We'll be back here next Friday, and we'll be talking with Snozfest, that is based out of Metro Detroit, and we'll be talking to them all about Michigan stuff. And that'll be a lot of fun too for three young go-getters, and listen to their show, and it's really dynamic. I'm really looking forward to talking to them next Friday, and I do hope you guys all come out. And if you can't make it live, we understand that. Our show is you can watch it as a replay, or you can listen to it as a podcast. You can just put on our show, and you don't necessarily have to watch it. Encourage you to watch it. Encourage you to drop comments and subscribe and all that. But you don't have to. You don't have to watch us in order to enjoy us. But for now, we're going to go ahead and say goodnight. And then Chase, if you could just stay there for a couple of minutes afterwards to the chat. Thank you so much for your support. I wouldn't be here without you. And we will see you on Tuesday. And we'll stay safe and stay warm.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you everyone for coming out and watching.
Yeah, I'm already ahead of you. I subscribe to her channel, and I will reach out to her and have her come up here and do a show with us, for sure. If she's open to that, if she is open to doing a show with us, we'd be more than happy to have her on. And yeah, tell your friends too. And we're not just a show business show either. If you have an interesting story, we want to hear about it. If you're a kayaker and you're walking the Appalachian Trail, I want to talk to you about it. I do. I will talk to anybody about anything. Um, yeah, I guess I have to qualify that. Yeah, I'll even talk to some rather unsavory people if they come up. I don't mind. I have no problem with that. The people here will tell you I have no fear in that regard. I will be happy to talk to anybody about anything. All right. Well, have a great night, and we'll stay safe. Peace. Let's see. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.